Right, everybody, welcome to the second day of XLDB 2018. My name is Paul Brown, and I'll be your game show host for the morning. I am responsible for the machine learning session this morning, and I'm also trying to convene the machine learning panel, which will sort of come after this. Now, what I sort of much like somebody yesterday, I had a deck of slides. I was going to talk about machine learning and context and so forth. But you might have noticed yesterday I had to leave abruptly. And the reason for that was that I had to take my daughter to the dentist in short order. And it was, if life gives you chipped teeth, try to make tooth fairies. So rather than do my slides, which were more academically focused and more abstract, instead I want to introduce you to my daughter, Sydney Fabrica. And I want to talk about machine learning, and I want to talk briefly about the Internet of Things, because this is sort of one of the ways in which life has touched me rather directly in the last 24 hours. So my daughter is 14. She went to the dentist. When I was 14 and went to the dentist, it wasn't about a dance problem. It was about a rugby match. And I managed to get a good punch in the nose, and I gave a few good punches back. And so I had to get a hand x-rayed, and to get my sort of front of my head x-rayed. But this was 1979, 1980. And in those days, it was all film and exposure and slides. And I went, trucked around with this sort of gear. These teeth, so several things, these teeth arrived in the email. And if you want to know sort of how this works, it's the same idea, 6 exposures, tops, bottoms, lefts, rights, fronts, but this is all digitally stitched together. This is an algorithm, I looked this up on the internet, that didn't exist 7 years ago, but now all of these, this is the way the dentists look at teeth. This is as good an example of why machine learning and why the Internet of Things is important as I can think of. Yesterday, I believe on the second presentation, somebody pointed out that some of the work being done by the Google DeepMind group has led to the situation where Google's DeepMind algorithms are better at radiology than radiologists. And that's a really dramatic step. So traditionally, radiologists or traditionally AI has always been measured as to what percentage it came close to how humans did the characterization. And now we're in a world where there's at least an existence proof that stepping beyond that is possible. This is an example of an image gathered by the Internet of Things. The dentists, X-rays, digital computers, and so forth are all hooked up to the internet. This will become part of the permanent record that will drag around with my daughter for the rest of her life. You will notice, by the way, as she pointed out, that she is getting these pre-emergent wisdom teeth, so at some stage I'm going to have to pay to go back and have her wisdom teeth taken out, assuming that doesn't work. But the big idea here about machine learning, about the Internet of Things, is that this is about a world where machines, rather than people, are what is the source of our information. The source of the dominant kind of information, the most useful information that we'll use to gather, to make conclusions, to derive insights from. So when I had my rugby, I won't call it an accident, when I had my rugby incident, the best that the radiologist could do is scribble some notes on a chart, and that became part of the record. So now this is going to be an image that will become part of sort of the history of my daughter, and will probably end up being used in somebody's, we signed a little waiver form saying, is it okay if we use your medical records for research? And of course we signed that because we're sort of good social citizens. So why is the Internet of Things important? Why is machine learning important? Because it's improving lives. It's improving the way that we structure ourselves, that we organize our lives. And the panel today, or the morning session, is going to be about applications of machine learning and how we are going to be using tools and techniques to get some sort of insights, to get additional information out of the kinds of evidence, the kinds of data that's being gathered by the machinery we'll discuss in the afternoon session, the Internet of Things.